Are you ready to learn the truth about the most reliable shelters on the North American continent? Imagine this: 100 people lived under one roof throughout the long winter months, and yet none of them froze. This seems incredible, given the region's harsh conditions. The secret lay in the unique and meticulously designed longhouse of the Iroquois tribes, who lived in the dense eastern forests. This architecture allowed heat to be effectively retained inside the building, even when the fiercest snowstorms raged outside. Ancient engineers used natural materials in such a way that the dwelling became a true self-contained system, protecting against the elements. In this video, we'll take a detailed look at exactly how this technology worked. We'll analyze the engineering solutions that allowed indigenous peoples not only to withstand extreme cold, but also to organize daily life in such a close-knit community. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss new investigations into the hidden capabilities of humans and the amazing pages of history. Watch the video to the end, and you'll learn how a wooden frame and tree bark became an impenetrable barrier against the bitter cold and dangerous enemies. What the old archives reveal is truly mind-boggling. The Iroquois Longhouses were colossal wooden structures covering a vast area. A single building could reach up to 100 meters in length and about 8 meters in width. These impressive dimensions made the structure resemble a massive wooden tunnel. The spacious interior allowed for several dozen families to live under one roof. Building such a massive structure required precise engineering calculations. Thick wooden posts, deeply dug into the hard ground, served as the foundation. These massive supports were positioned strictly along the perimeter of the future rectangular building. The distance between the support posts was measured with exceptional precision to ensure structural integrity. The entire structure had to withstand the enormous weight of snow on the roof. The main axis of the longhouse was always oriented in a specific direction. The buildings were positioned so that their gables faced the prevailing winds. This simple aerodynamic solution significantly reduced the pressure of air masses on the wide-side walls. The wind smoothly curved around the narrow part of the structure without damaging the main framework. This orientation served as the first line of defense against harsh winter weather. The construction of a longhouse began with the careful selection of suitable timber. Builders preferred to use trunks of elm, hickory, or white cedar. These wood species were highly flexible and resistant to rot. The trunks were stripped of their bark and dried for a long time in the open air. Proper preparation of the wood ensured the durability of the entire massive structure for decades. The area of a single-family section was approximately 4 by 5 meters. This space was quite sufficient for comfortably accommodating all necessary belongings. Wide, multi-tiered platforms were built along the walls, serving as furniture. People slept on these sturdy shelves and also stored their clothes and household items there. The rational use of every square meter was the main rule of such communal living. The entire structure of the longhouse was held together without the use of metal nails. Native American builders employed a complex system of tying the elements together with strong ropes. The ropes were made from the inner fibers of tree bark or tough plant roots. The joints where the poles met were carefully wrapped and tightened with tight knots. When wet and then dried, these knots pulled the wooden frame together tightly. Thanks to these architectural solutions, the longhouse became a veritable fortress. It reliably protected its inhabitants from the whims of the harsh natural environment. A comfortable microclimate was always maintained inside, regardless of the outside temperature. The building's massive dimensions underscored the strength and organization of the entire tribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the grand scale of these wooden structures. Please share your views in the comments and be sure to subscribe to the channel. I will reveal the best-kept secret behind the strength of these incredible structures. The foundation of the longhouse's indestructibility was a unique double-frame system. The tribe's engineers didn't simply drive posts into the ground. They created 2 parallel lines of supports. The outer and inner rows of posts formed a rigid spatial grid along the entire perimeter. This double-layered wall possessed incredible load-bearing capacity and stability. A small empty space was left between the 2 rows of support posts. This air gap served as an additional insulator during the cold season. Branches, dry grass, or moss were often packed into this gap. This natural insulation prevented the cold from penetrating the wooden walls. The air cushion worked on the principle of a modern thermos, retaining the heat from the hearths. Joining the vertical and horizontal elements of the frame required special skill. Horizontal crossbeams were tightly fastened to the load-bearing posts at several levels. These rows of poles held the entire structure together, preventing the posts from becoming loose. The distance between the horizontal crossbeams was about half a meter. The result was a sturdy wooden frame, ready to be clad with protective material. The longest and youngest trees were used to create the arched roof. Their trunks had to be as flexible as possible so they wouldn't break when bent. Builders bent two trunks toward each other and tied their tops together. The resulting arch became one of the many ribs of the vaulted roof. Dozens of such arches, arranged in a row, formed a long and sturdy vault. Each wooden component was fitted to the adjacent one with the tightest possible fit. If necessary, builders smoothed out irregularities in the trunks with stone or bone axes. The smoothness of the joints ensured there was no play during strong gusts of wind. The rigid frame was designed to flex slightly but not deform under load. It was this elasticity that saved the longhouses from destruction during hurricanes. The finished frame resembled the skeleton of a giant whale washed ashore. Rows of curved ribs stretched into the distance, forming a long symmetrical wooden tunnel. The spaciousness inside the frame amazed any outside observer with its scale. This bare wooden structure already possessed impressive strength and monumentality. All that remained was to cover this skeleton with a protective shell of tree bark. The double frame of the longhouse was the pinnacle of engineering thought among the eastern tribes. It combined incredible strength, lightness, and excellent thermal insulation properties. This architecture allowed people to survive the harsh northern winter. How difficult do you think it was to build such structures without steel tools? In the next chapter, you'll learn how ancient engineers created the perfect ventilation system. Want to know a secret that will change your perception of simple tree bark? The siding of the longhouse consisted of a complex, multi-layered shield made of bark from various trees. The Native Americans did not use planks. They stripped the bark in huge whole sheets. These sheets became the ideal roofing and wall material for the massive structure. The process of harvesting bark required a deep understanding of the life cycles of forest plants. Early spring was considered the best time to gather building materials. During this period, sap flow made the bark soft, flexible, and pliable enough to peel off. Men made deep cuts into the trunks of elm trees using large stone tools. Then they carefully separated wide strips of bark, taking care not to damage their integrity. The removed sheets were several meters long and quite thick. The collected bark sheets could not be used immediately after being removed from the tree. They had to be straightened and dried under heavy weight on level ground. The sheets were laid in layers and pressed down from above with massive stones or logs. The drying process took several weeks, during which the bark became completely flat. The dried material acquired the hardness of a wooden plank while remaining lightweight. The thickness of the finished bark wall could reach several centimeters. It served as an excellent barrier against cold air and biting winds. In terms of thermal insulation, such cladding was on par with thick brickwork. Internal heat from the hearths was reflected by the dense bark and remained inside the room. The inhabitants of the house felt completely safe behind this reliable natural armor. Over time, under the influence of the sun and rain, the bark took on a noble silvery hue. The longhouse blended into the surrounding forest landscape, becoming its natural extension. This natural camouflage helped hide the vast settlement from the eyes of potential enemies. The perfect harmony between architecture and the environment was the guiding principle of construction. The tree bark served the people faithfully for many long years. If a single section of the cladding was damaged, it could be easily replaced. Builders simply untied the clamping strips, removed the broken sheet, and inserted a new one. The structure's maintainability allowed the house to be kept in perfect condition for decades. Constant care for the building was the responsibility of all adult members of the tribe. The longhouse was considered a common asset requiring careful and respectful treatment. Using bark instead of heavy logs made the building light, warm, and dry. Natural materials perfectly fulfilled the task of protecting a large number of people from the elements. This technique of sheathing a wooden frame was a true triumph of the forest dwellers' engineering ingenuity. This approach demonstrates the incredible resourcefulness and practicality of the ancient builders of the American continent. If you were impressed by this natural armor, be sure to like this video. The secret passed down from generation to generation is hidden right under the roof. One of the main problems with any enclosed space with an open fire is smoke. In a longhouse, dozens of fires could burn simultaneously for heating and cooking. Without a well-designed ventilation system, people would have simply suffocated from carbon monoxide within a matter of hours. The ancient builders found an ingenious aerodynamic solution to this deadly problem. Exactly in the center of the arched roof, along its entire length, special openings were left. These openings were positioned directly above each indoor hearth burning in the corridor. Smoke from the fires rose vertically upward and escaped through these exhaust vents. The correct geometric shape of the vault facilitated the natural draft of warm air upward. Hot air rushed toward the exits, carrying harmful combustion products with it. However, simple holes in the roof could not provide reliable protection from rain and snow. Therefore, each exhaust vent was equipped with a special movable valve made of bark. This valve was attached to a long pole that extended directly into the living quarters. Using this rod, any resident could easily adjust the size of the exhaust opening. During heavy rain, the hatch was closed completely, preventing water from falling onto the burning hearth. The movable valves on the roof served as a sophisticated climate control system. By changing the angle of the flap, one could control the airflow rate. In strong winds, the valve opened on the side opposite the direction of the wind. This created a chimney effect, where the wind literally sucked the smoke out of the room. The air currents inside the longhouse always remained clean and safe to breathe. Fresh air was supplied through small gaps at the very base of the walls. Cold air slowly entered from below, was heated by the fire, and rose toward the ceiling. This created constant and even air circulation throughout the entire building. Smoke did not have time to sink to human height and swirled high under the roof vaults. People could sleep, eat, and work peacefully without suffering from the acrid smell of smoke. The ventilation system operated completely silently and required no complex mechanisms. Its effectiveness depended solely on the laws of physics and the correct proportions of the building. The height of the ceilings played a key role in creating the proper air draft. If the roof had been lower, smoke would inevitably have filled the entire living space. The precise calculation of the vault's height attests to the builder's deep empirical knowledge. The genius of this system lay in its absolute simplicity and flawless reliability. No pipes, no fans, just the correct shape of the building and movable bark sheets. Native American engineers harnessed the power of the wind and temperature differences to their advantage. They turned potential threats into useful tools for the survival of an entire tribe. This ventilation technology surpassed many European counterparts of the time. Skillful management of air currents made the longhouse comfortable to live in. Hundreds of people could breathe clean air while inside the fully enclosed space of the wooden fortress. Does this surprise you? The next chapter will reveal the secret of ideal chimneys and the preservation of internal heat from hearths. The organization of the longhouse's internal heating system followed strict geometric rules. The hearths were placed at equal distances from one another along the entire central axis of the building. A single hearth served as a source of heat and light for two families living opposite each other. The distance between adjacent hearths was about 6 or 7 meters. This arrangement ensured uniform heating of the entire vast interior space. The fire pits were set up in special shallow pits dug into the earthen floor. The bottom and edges of these depressions were carefully lined with flat, smooth stones. The stones acted as heat accumulators, storing the energy from the burning wood. Even after the fire died down, the hot cobblestones continued to radiate steady heat. This ingenious method allowed for saving firewood at night and maintaining a stable temperature. Even during the harshest frosts, the temperature inside the house was maintained at a surprisingly comfortable level. Numerous fires created a continuous thermal barrier in the central passageway of the building. Warm air was evenly distributed throughout all living areas and sleeping platforms. Thick bark walls reliably retained this heat, preventing it from escaping outside. No snowstorm could disrupt this stable and cozy microclimate. The hearth was not merely a source of heat, but also the center of the inhabitants' social life. Family members gathered around the fire for shared meals and long evening conversations. Here, the older generation passed on their experience and told legends to the young hunters. The light of the flames illuminated people's faces, creating an atmosphere of unity and deep trust. The fire bound all the inhabitants of the longhouse into one large and strong community. The ash left over after the wood burned out also found a useful application in daily life. It was carefully collected and used for treating hides or washing clothes. Lye, obtained from wood ash, was excellent for cleaning any surface. The waste products of the heating process were transformed into a valuable chemical resource for the entire tribe. In the household of the Forest Indians, nothing went to waste, and everything had its place. If smoke filled the house due to a sudden change in wind direction, emergency measures were taken. Those on duty immediately opened the lower doorways to create a powerful draft. The smoke was quickly blown out of the room, after which the climate balance was restored. The skills of managing air and heat flows had been honed by the local inhabitants over centuries. They knew how to control the element of fire with incredible precision and safety. Properly arranged hearths were the key to a safe winter for hundreds of people. The heat of the stones, dry firewood, and constant supervision ensured survival during severe cold. These interior hearths transformed the massive wooden structure into a truly warm home. The longhouse functioned as a single living organism, warmed by the hot heart of the hearths. Every detail of this heating system was refined by the harsh experience of many generations. Here is what happens behind the closed doors of an Iroquois longhouse. The interior of the massive structure was striking for its austere and well-thought-out geometry. It was not a chaotic storage area or a haphazard gathering of people. The entire space was divided into distinct functional zones, each assigned to specific families. Each section was a standardized unit within a unified communal framework. The central corridor, about 3 meters wide, served as the building's main thoroughfare. People moved along this path from the entrance to their sections without disturbing their neighbors. Along the corridor were communal hearths, cooking utensils, and large mortars for grinding grain. This space was considered a communal area where active daily life took place. The width of the passage allowed 2 adult men carrying heavy loads to easily pass each other. On both sides of the central aisle were living niches for individual households. The boundaries of these niches were marked by vertical support posts of the internal wooden framework. Light curtains made of woven reeds or thick hides were often stretched between the posts. These partitions created a minimal sense of privacy and personal space for families. Within each such section, a strict order for storing personal belongings was established. The main element of the living section's interior was a massive wooden platform. It ran along the entire outer wall and was about 1.5 meters wide. The platform rose about half a meter above the earthen floor to protect against dampness. The structure was assembled from smooth, even poles and covered with a thick layer of coniferous branches. During the day, this raised area served as a comfortable sofa or workspace for women. The space under the lower platform was never empty and was used extremely efficiently. Heavy baskets of nuts, bundles of dried roots, and spare bundles of firewood were stored there. The earthen floor beneath the decking remained cool, which was ideal for storing supplies. The darkness and dryness protected the harvested crops from spoiling prematurely. Each family had its own food storage area right under the bed. A second tier of flooring was constructed about 1.5 meters above the main platform. These upper shelves were intended exclusively for storing clothing, weapons, and lightweight items. Items were neatly laid out or hung on wooden hooks attached to the supporting beams of the frame. The elevated position protected valuable items from accidental damage and the ever-present dust. Order on the shelves was strictly monitored by the older women who managed the household. Even higher up, right under the building's roof, long longitudinal poles ran for drying the harvest. Hundreds of golden corn cobs, tied by their dry leaves, hung in rows from them. This arrangement allowed the hot air from the hearths to effectively dry the grain reserves. The yellow garlands of corn served as a unique interior decoration, symbolizing the community's prosperity. The longhouse combined the functions of a spacious dwelling and a massive food storage barn. Every spot in the living section was strictly allocated among the members of a specific family. Older and more respected relatives occupied the warmest and most comfortable sections of the floor. Neighbors were situated nearby, under constant and watchful mutual supervision. Such clear zoning prevented any domestic conflicts in the cramped communal living space. Discipline and mutual respect formed the basis for the peaceful coexistence of dozens of people under one roof. The earthen floor in the hallway and living quarters was regularly tamped down and swept with stiff brooms. Over time, the surface of the earth became hard and smooth, much like modern concrete. The cleanliness of the premises was maintained by all the building's residents with maniacal thoroughness and diligence. The absence of trash prevented unpleasant odors and preserved the health of the large community. This ideal order reflected the high level of internal culture among the Forest Indians. The interior layout of the Longhouse demonstrates a triumph of rationality and common sense. The architects succeeded in creating a comfortable living environment for a large number of people within a single space. Did you know about such a clear and well-thought-out division of living space? In the next chapter, we will discuss sleeping arrangements and methods for staying warm at night. The sleeping platforms of the Longhouse deserve separate, detailed consideration and study. To ensure a comfortable sleep on hard wooden planks, a multi-layered bedding system was used. The bottom layer always consisted of fresh fir or cedar branches, which had a pleasant scent. This plant-based cushion provided softness and an additional barrier against the dampness of the earthen floor. Thick mats, skillfully woven from lake reeds, were laid tightly over the coniferous branches. The main means of protection against the nighttime cold were skillfully tanned hides. Hunters caught large game, whose hides were distinguished by thick, warm fur. The tanning process made these massive hides incredibly soft and supple. People would literally wrap themselves in the fluffy fur, creating an impenetrable cocoon of warm air around their bodies. Such natural blankets surpassed any modern synthetic materials in their properties. On the coldest nights, sleeping areas were further insulated from the outer walls of the house. To do this, additional skins were hung between the outer bark wall and the sleeping platform. They created another layer of air, blocking the icy draft from reaching the sleeping people. This principle of multi-layered thermal insulation allowed for a comfortable night's sleep even when outside temperatures were extremely low. Ensuring warmth during sleep was a top priority for every family. Sleeping in a longhouse was never a completely isolated or individual process. Family members slept huddled closely together for effective mutual warmth. The heat from their bodies combined to form a shared, comfortable temperature zone beneath the fur blankets. The most vulnerable family members were placed at the very center of the sleeping area to provide an additional layer of safety. Resting together under thick furs ensured the conservation of precious energy during the coldest periods. This method of collective survival was passed down from generation to generation over many centuries. Heat from the smoldering coals of the central hearth continuously warmed the protruding edges of the sleeping platforms. Hot air slowly flowed along the floorboards, warming the feet of the sleepers that had grown cold during the day. The architectural design of the platform's height perfectly matched the optimal zone for distributing the harsh heat. If the platforms had been positioned higher or lower, the efficiency of this passive heating would have dropped sharply. Engineering ingenuity once again came to the rescue in the struggle against the harsh winter elements. During the day, bedding was neatly folded and stored on the upper shelves of the compartment. The platform was cleared and transformed into a spacious workspace for sewing clothes or repairing weapons. Sleeping skins were regularly taken out into the bright sun to dry and air out in the fresh air. This mandatory hygiene procedure prevented the growth of harmful microorganisms and kept the fur clean. Keeping the bedding in perfect condition was considered a sign of a good and responsible hostess. During the summer, the arrangement of sleeping quarters underwent significant and important changes. Heavy winter furs were stored in deep baskets and hidden in a dark, cool space under the floorboards. In their place, thin woven mats made of smooth reeds and light capes made of soft reindeer hide were used. The doors of the longhouse were left wide open to ensure powerful cross ventilation of the rooms. The cool night breeze flowed freely through the building, bringing long-awaited relief from the daytime heat. The dimensions of the sleeping platforms allowed even the tallest warriors to lie comfortably. No one had to sleep curled up or dangle their feet into the cold passageway of the common corridor. The standardization of furniture dimensions in the longhouse is impressive for its rigorous approach to the comfort of its inhabitants. All wooden architecture was designed to accommodate the anatomical features of the human body and its basic needs. The ergonomics of the space were determined empirically, based on years of experience surviving in the forest. Winter nights in the longhouse passed in absolute silence, broken only by the crackling of coals. Thick bark walls reliably muffled the howling wind, and the sounds of the raging snowstorm outside. People felt completely safe, surrounded by a sturdy framework and the warmth of their loved ones. This deep and peaceful sleep restored their strength before a new day full of hard physical labor. Quality rest was the most important condition for preserving the strength of the entire large tribe. The arrangement of sleeping quarters demonstrates incredible attention to detail on the part of Native American engineers. They were able to provide comfort and warmth for hundreds of people using only wood, animal skins, and fire. These multi-tiered platforms became the prototype for modern systems of efficient storage and space organization. The Longhouse once again proves its effectiveness as the ideal machine for survival. The design of the sleeping quarters was perfected and remained unchanged for many centuries. Successful wintering for dozens of people required the creation of enormous food reserves under one roof. The Longhouse was designed with the need to store tons of corn, beans, and dried meat in mind. The entire upper volume of the building under the vaulted roof was transformed into a giant ventilated warehouse. Poles crossing the space beneath the ceiling supported the colossal weight of the suspended food. Warm smoke from the hearths constantly enveloped these supplies, preventing the growth of destructive mold and rot. The staple food of the inhabitants of the eastern forest was corn, grown in vast forest clearings. The harvested ears were carefully sorted, after which the husks were folded back and woven into sturdy braids. These golden garlands were hung high under the ceiling, where the driest and warmest air circulated. Corn could be stored this way for years without losing its high nutritional value. This strategic reserve was the tribe's main guarantee of survival in the event of a crop failure or a long winter. Dried beans and pumpkin seeds were stored in special cylindrical baskets made of birch bark. These containers were highly durable and exceptionally resistant to the ever-present moisture. The baskets were tightly sealed with fitted lids and placed on the upper shelves of the living quarters. The bark reliably protected the contents from any external threats and premature spoilage. Strict inventory of the supplies in the baskets was maintained by the older women responsible for the family's food security. Preserving meat supplies required the use of complex smoking techniques and prolonged drying. Strips of venison were hung on special frames directly above the hearths burning in the corridor. Hot smoke penetrated the fibers, drying them out and preserving them for the long winter months. The finished meat became as hard as a board, but retained immense nutritional value for the body. Before being eaten, these pieces were simmered for a long time in clay pots with water and vegetables. Fish caught in the fall were also preserved on a large scale. They were cleaned, flattened, and laid out on racks over the slowly smoldering coals of the hearths. The smoking process gave the fish a distinctive aroma and allowed it to be stored without salt for a long time. The dried carcasses were packed tightly into birch bark boxes and stored in a dark space beneath the sleeping platforms. Fish stocks provided people with essential fats during periods of severe cold and scarce game. Storing firewood to keep the fire burning continuously was a separate and complex logistical challenge. Huge stacks of firewood were arranged along the outer walls inside the building and beneath the sleeping platforms. Dry firewood took up a significant portion of the usable space, but its availability was a matter of survival. As fuel supplies were consumed, the freed-up space was used for other domestic needs of the community. Wood was harvested in vast quantities, accounting for the possibility of an unexpectedly long and cold winter. The internal logistics of the Longhouse are striking in their ingenuity and incredible practicality. Not a single cubic meter of valuable space under the protective roof went to waste. A system of shelves, hanging racks, and underground storage pits allowed for the storage of provisions for hundreds of people for half a year. This wooden granary functioned flawlessly, keeping food in perfect condition for many months. A deep understanding of food preservation processes ensured the prosperity of the continent's great forest tribes. The organization of storage in the Longhouse became a model of efficient distribution of limited resources. Strict storage protocols ensured that not a single handful of precious grain would be lost or spoiled. Massive bark walls protected the supplies not only from the cold, but also from enemy raids. Concentrating resources in a single secure building made the community strong and completely independent. This food security system allowed people to look confidently toward the future without fear of starvation. The Longhouse served not only as a warm dwelling, but also as a formidable defensive stronghold for the tribe. Such large-scale structures were never built alone in an open field or deep forest. They were grouped into large settlements consisting of several dozen such gigantic buildings. The layout of the houses was planned in such a way as to create a complex system of narrow internal streets. This configuration made it difficult for large groups of enemies to move quickly within a captured settlement. The entire settlement was always surrounded by a massive defensive palisade made of thick logs. Sometimes builders erected 2 or 3 rows of high wooden walls at once for maximum protection. The palisade logs were dug deep into the ground and firmly bound together with flexible branches. Special galleries for defenders armed with bows and stones were built atop the defensive walls. This wooden barrier posed a serious obstacle to any enemy military unit. The longhouses themselves were also designed with a potential enemy assault in mind. Solid walls made of thick bark had no windows, preventing arrows from penetrating the interior. The only vulnerable points were the doorways at the narrow ends of the massive building. The doors were made from the most massive pieces of wood and securely locked from the inside with heavy bolts. Breaking through such a fortified door without the use of heavy battering rams was practically impossible. The absence of windows gave the defenders a huge tactical advantage over the attacking enemies. From the darkness, they could control the entrances and the narrow passages between neighboring buildings. If the enemy managed to break into the house, the central corridor turned into a deadly trap. The narrow space prevented the enemies from forming a line or using their numerical superiority in close combat. The defenders, who knew the layout of the platforms perfectly, easily navigated the space and neutralized the disoriented attackers. The double wooden frame of the longhouse provided incredible structural strength to the entire building. Even if attackers managed to break through the outer bark cladding, they would run into massive internal posts. Destroying such a structure by hand was incredibly difficult and required an enormous amount of time. The building could withstand powerful blows from heavy objects without collapsing on the heads of its defenders. This structural stability saved hundreds of lives during the fierce intertribal conflicts of that time. The main threat to the wooden fortress was always fire, used by attackers. Enemies often tried to set the outer walls ablaze or hurl flaming arrows onto the arched roofs of the houses. To combat fires, a huge supply of water was always stored in special tubs inside each building. In addition, lookouts were stationed on the roofs of some houses, ready to quickly extinguish any flames. The smooth roof surface prevented burning objects from catching hold. They simply rolled down to the ground. In the event of a prolonged siege, a longhouse could function as a completely self-sufficient bunker. Huge food supplies and the availability of drinking water allowed the inhabitants to hold out for many weeks. Smoke from the interior hearths escaped through hatches, concealing the exact number of people inside. The enemy could not wear down the settlement by starvation, as they had no way to cut off its supply lines. This self-sufficiency thwarted the plans of many conquerors who had counted on an easy and quick victory. The compact living arrangements of a large number of men under one roof ensured instant mobilization. At the first alarm, dozens of armed warriors could rush out the doors ready for battle. They did not need to gather from different parts of the settlement, wasting precious minutes organizing a detachment. The longhouse served as a kind of military barracks, where discipline and readiness were constantly maintained. Such a rapid response stunned the enemy and often decided the outcome of a sudden skirmish. The settlement's architecture and the design of the houses reflected the harsh reality of a constant military threat. Engineers took into account all possible attack tactics and created adequate passive defense systems. The longhouse struck a perfect balance between a comfortable civilian dwelling and an impregnable military fortress. This dual functionality of the structure ensured the dominance of the eastern tribes across their vast region. The wooden walls served as a reliable shield for preserving the culture and independence of a great people. The defensive potential of the longhouse attests to the high level of engineering ingenuity of its creators. They were able to transform ordinary trees and bark into an impregnable stronghold capable of withstanding a siege. These monumental structures have gone down in history as masterpieces of ancient fortification. Neither frost nor an armed enemy could break the resistance of the people protected by such architecture. For centuries, these wooden fortresses of the forests safeguarded the peace of their inhabitants, repelling any external threats. Surprisingly, the ancient principles of building a longhouse are reflected in modern architecture. Native American engineers intuitively applied technologies that are now considered the foundation of energy-efficient building construction. The use of a double frame with an air gap is a direct analog of modern multi-layer thermal panels. This concept of separating the load-bearing structure from the thermal insulator is actively used in the construction of modern skyscrapers. Ancient builders were ahead of their time, creating an ideal scheme for heat retention in harsh climates. The arched roof structure of the Longhouse also has profound modern engineering significance. The vaulted shape provides maximum resistance to wind and snow loads with minimal material consumption. Today, this principle is used in the construction of giant hangars, sports stadiums, and industrial greenhouses. The even distribution of weight across the curved stiffening ribs allows for the spanning of vast spaces without internal supports. The Native Americans empirically discovered the laws of material resistance that modern design bureaus take pride in. The natural ventilation system via adjustable roof hatches is a masterpiece of climate engineering. Modern principles of passive cooling and air purification in eco-friendly buildings operate on an absolutely identical principle. Utilizing temperature differences and wind force allows for enormous savings on artificial air conditioning. Ancient bark-covered vents perform the same function as modern automatic climate control systems. They created ideal airflow using only the laws of physics and the dome's correct geometry. The scale of Iroquois prefabricated timber construction amazes even seasoned modern civil engineers. Erecting a 100-meter-long building without using metal fasteners requires the utmost precision in fitting the components. The principle of connecting load-bearing nodes with flexible elements provides the structure with the necessary elasticity during strong winds. Architects still use this flexibility of wooden joints when constructing earthquake-resistant structures. The Forest Indians applied this advanced technology long before the advent of complex mathematical modeling. The use of standardized modules in the layout of the interior space is a sign of highly developed systematic thinking. The identical dimensions of sleeping platforms and living sections allowed for the rapid assembly of interiors of any configuration. This method forms the basis of modern industrial construction of prefabricated houses and modular residential complexes. The standardization of components accelerated the process of erecting a longhouse and facilitated its subsequent repair. Ancient craftsmen thought in terms of mass production, optimizing every stage of their arduous work. The eco-friendliness of the materials used makes the architecture of Eastern tribes absolutely flawless from a modern perspective. All components of the building, from wooden posts to bone and stone tools, were completely biodegradable. An abandoned or destroyed longhouse would simply dissolve into the forest over time, leaving no toxic waste behind. Today, the construction industry spends billions of dollars developing similar eco-friendly and renewable materials. Native Americans lived in complete harmony with nature, using its gifts without causing irreparable damage to the ecosystem. The multifunctionality of the massive structure combined a living area, storage facilities, and a fortress under one roof. Modern urban planning concepts also aim to create similar multi-purpose megastructures to conserve urban space. The idea of a city within a single building was successfully implemented by Native Americans several centuries ago in the eastern forests. The concentration of resources and people increased the efficiency of management and ensured a high level of social security for the community. This architectural model proved its incredible viability in the most extreme living conditions on the continent. The building's ideal orientation relative to prevailing winds demonstrates a deep understanding of the laws of aerodynamics. Today, this principle is mandatory in the design of energy-efficient homes according to passive ecological construction standards. The correct placement of the structure on the site minimizes heat loss and reduces pressure on the load-bearing walls. Ancient builders did not have sophisticated instruments, but possessed a unique gift for reading natural signs and currents. Their experience of observing the environment was embodied in the perfect forms of these wooden giants. Studying the construction techniques of the Longhouse offers a fresh perspective on the history of engineering thought. These structures were not primitive huts. They represented the pinnacle of wooden architecture of their time. The scale, strength, and functionality of these buildings attest to the highest level of social organization and knowledge among the great tribes. They created a unique building tradition that still amazes engineers with its elegant solutions. The legacy of these ancient masters deserves the most careful and respectful study by modern science. The Longhouse is the most striking example of how human ingenuity can adapt to any conditions. Using the simplest natural materials, people erected masterpieces that defy the harsh elements in the passage of time. These wooden fortresses have become a symbol of the strength, unity, and unyielding will of the indigenous peoples of the North American continent. The history of longhouses teaches us a rational approach to construction and a respectful attitude toward the environment. The architectural secrets of the past continue to inspire the creators of the most modern and environmentally friendly technologies of the future. Architectural masterpieces of the past, such as the Longhouse, force us to rethink many established views on the history of engineering. Ancient craftsmen, lacking steel machinery, created perfect machines for survival in the most unimaginable conditions. Their experience proves that ingenuity and precise calculation can overcome any natural force or enemy. What other engineering mysteries of the past would you like to explore in upcoming videos on our channel? Be sure to suggest your topics in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss our new historical investigations.